Hey, friends, thank you for being a part of Flying Free Ministries by listening to this podcast or YouTube video. Um, yeah, I'm blessed because of you, because I know that God has put you on my heart to just love on and encourage and remind that He has planted dreams in your heart for a reason. So today, our topic is dig into your dreams. Do you know what your dream is? How do you refine that dream? How do you take the next step forward in your dream? That's what we're talking about today. So, first of all, do you know your dream? You know what? Dreams morph and change, and it is okay if you don't know. So, just listen to these little tips and see which ones apply to you and which ones maybe will just stir, like, oh, yeah, maybe I do know what I want to be doing. But for me, I know there was like that evolution of things changing, right? So I was learning who I was as a kid. I spoke about that last Wednesday, how I knew that was gifted with kids, but at the same time, I wanted to see what else I could do. So for me, that looked like going on a missions trip and getting to have lots of different opportunities in lots of different ministry settings. Like we worked at inner city kids, and I got to do some tutoring, and I was like, oh, tutoring one on one, that I like that. We got to go hammer crates for mercy ships, and I was like, I'm not really good with a hammer, but it was kind of great to be in the sun. And we got to just try a variety of things out. And that's something I encourage us as adults to remember, that we're allowed to try new things. We're allowed to say, I've always kind of wanted to do, like, learn how to draw, but I don't know if I can, or I don't know what that looks like, or we're allowed to pursue new things. So sometimes I think we make ourselves stay in a box and say, well, no, I don't have time for, but it's really healthy for us to pursue new things and see what, especially when they're stirring in our heart to do, right? And it also inspires other generations to be able to do the same thing, that they don't have to stay in a stagnant place, but they can be checking out new things and seeing what they're into. For me, I the whole kiddo thing was on my brain, and I had already told and decided, like, I am being a mom and I'm having kids. Like, that is my job. That's what I'll do. And I remember people being like, well, you could be a teacher. You'd be a good teacher, blah, blah, blah. And I thought maybe, like, it was kind of nice to hear that, but I was like, I don't know if I want to. And then I remember in grade 12 thinking about it more. And I knew that my next step was eventually to go to Bible school, because I just wanted to so bad. But I had grew up as an elementary kid. I was on a Bible school campus, or I lived in the town that had the Bible school. So and my dad was the chef there. So I had lots of experience just checking out what that looked like, and I just thought it would be cool, and so it was an easy next step for me. But when I was in grade 12, as I was challenged about what am I going to do beyond that, the reality was more obvious, that you don't just get to be married when you want to. You have to, like, wait for the right guy and all these things. So I was thinking again about, like, do I really want to be what would I do? And thankfully, I had realized by that point I'd had quite a bit of experience in camp, that I really enjoyed the smaller settings with kids. And so when I was doing, like, I was a cabin leader, and when I was teaching Bible study or leading devotions, I was like, oh, I like this. So I was beginning to realize I do have that teacher part of me, but I like it in smaller groups. Like, it wasn't as fun to lead the whole camp in, like, wide games. um, and so that was interesting for me. So it helped me decide that, yeah, I want to be in the teaching field, but I don't want to be a teacher. So I chose to be an education assistant. And so that was a good choice for me and a stepping stone in my journey. And I think that's another thing for us to realize, is that the things we experience are stepping stones. So even like my crummy jobs as a janitor, I've had made, like, a lot of different janitor jobs. Those were really important. They were important for my mental health, actually, just the physical action. They were important for probably learning how to pray and worship, and just what do you do with your mind when you are was I just wasn't into listening to a Walkman back then. I don't think I had one. And so that was just actually a really important lesson for me, and just even how much they appreciated our hard work. We worked at a junior high and cleaned up after the kids. And So those jobs weren't for naught. They aren't my dream jobs. But at the same time, I learned skills that were important. So sometimes when you look back at your history, you can see the different parts that was fun, that wasn't fun, that was helpful, that wasn't helpful. And it's good just to go back and be that detective and check out those parts that you really loved and what did you love about them. I really loved being in the inner city when we were there just for a few days. And I was just like, okay, I can see how this is really hard for it to actually do long term. But at the same time, I can see the value of what we were doing was so loud. And I think that's where God was putting in my heart too, just the power of coaching, the power of one-on-one, the power of digging into people's stories with them. And yeah, I'm excited for you to dig into your past so that you can like move forward in your dreams and even just that nudge in your heart. Like I remember listening to speakers and being like, wow, that's amazing. Or seeing someone on the worship team and being like, I would love to do that someday. And those little nuggets were seeds of hope or seeds of dreams that have come true throughout the years. And so sometimes, yeah, we just need to look back so we can look forward. And then as we look at our current state, it can really feel like, oh my goodness, now like I can't even do any of that stuff because whatever the case may be. I remember feeling that way for sure when I had chronic illness, for sure when the kids were little. And there was really important things for me to learn during those seasons. And it didn't mean my dreams were done. But it was like, no, I'm living the dream of being a mom. And yeah, it totally looks different because of my lack of energy. I had chronic fatigue syndrome. But at the same time, I can still live my dream here by creating cool memories with my kids when I do have energy, by seeking God so that I am a godly mom, even though I feel like garbage a lot of the time. And there was still ways for me to fully be me in that, I don't know, trap setting or that place where it felt like I wasn't living my dreams. And so I encourage you, if that's you and it feels like I have to give up everything and now I'm just here, that isn't actually true because in that yucky, God has a plan. And so I really encourage you to talk to someone and to let out those feelings because they are valid. It is hard, 100%. But to be able to move beyond those feelings of trappedness into freedom and into acceptance and into, okay, God, show me the good in here. And what are you teaching me during this crazy? Um, there's also the reality that sometimes we go for our dream or we go for a job that is better and it doesn't work out. I remember getting a job and being like, okay, we're going to develop this program and it's going to be cool and it's for kids. It's another kid thing, but it's like we get to do the program side of it. So that's interesting. And I like organizing and being creative. So that those were parts of my giftings. And then in the end, like they canceled the program and we're like, okay, so that was short-lived and a little bit sad. Now I just only have my pizza job. But God knew that that was important for me just to even learn how to be interviewed and just that God always has a reason for what happens and we are always have the opportunity to learn from it. And so when we are operating out of that freedom mindset, out of that growth mindset, then we can be open to hearing and seeing and growing in the areas we need to because he's getting us ready for that next step and we don't know when that will be. Like for me, in 2017 when I went to that goals course with my husband, I did not think I'm going to leave here knowing I need to write a book. That was not what I thought. I was like, my kids are in school, all of them now, and people have said, are you going to go back to EA? And I was like, I don't think so. And I have things in my heart to do, but I don't know. And sure enough, that's when God was like, now it's time, Andrea, write your book. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And so he led me through that process and he continues to lead me. So look back to figure out some of the things that maybe how God's been nudging you and in your current situation, accept that this is where you are. And yet God has doors that can open, right? He says, ask, seek, knock. Ask is about receiving and seeking is about finding and knocking is about things opening, right? So that's who our God is. He's abundant and he's able and he has put those seeds in our hearts for us to do. Um, Philippians 2:13 talks about how he works in us to bring about what pleases him. So even those things that he has placed in us please him and bring him joy, especially when we are doing them out of obedience to him and his timing and allowing his spirit to work through us. And then lastly, just digging into your dreams might look like, well, the reality of actually taking a step towards them, right? Like if I would have just been like, okay, God told me to write a book, I'm gonna, okay, and I just didn't move after that, there would be no book, right? But I actually prayed about it and panicked about it and asked him, like, "Hey, what is this book about?" And he's like, "Freedom." I'm like, "What do you mean freedom? That's a huge topic." And so then he led me through that process of discernment. And then I was like, "Well, how am I going to write a book? I don't know how to write a book." And then sure enough, he reminded me of my grief recovery specialist, Lori Heatrich, and how she had written a book and she had mentioned this program she used and it was really good and it was faith-based and all these things. So I'm like, oh, so I checked out Author Academy Elite and I was like, oh, I should just fill out the application, I guess. And so I did, and I was like, that's really simple. And then I got a letter to be interviewed like right away. I'm like, what is happening? This is happening too fast. And told my husband, and yes, there was a financial investment involved, which was like, oh my word. But it was important steps of obedience and faith, and it was the right time, and my husband was on board. And so we took the leap of faith together. And yeah, each step of the journey, even as I started to do coaching, I remember being like, I think I'm going to start coaching and kind of feeling unsure about it and all that. And I remember my daughter would just looked at me and was like, Mom, you coach people in like every conversation. It totally makes sense. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's important. We need those affirmations. And now I am way better I catch those compliments when people say, "Hey, Andrea, you're relatable." I'm like, "Oh, I need to write that down," because inevitably I will wake up one morning and be like, "I have nothing to say," and blah 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 blah. And I have that negative mindset, and it's easy to look at that board and remember so and so said you communicate well. So and so said that what you said makes sense. So and so said you have good insights, and it helps remind me that okay, I am doing what I'm called to do. And even if maybe the results aren't exactly what I had in mind, it doesn't mean I'm not living out of my dream and the giftings and being a good steward what God's given me to do. So dig into your dreams from old. I want to be a mom and I've gotten to be a mom and it's been great. But I also had dreams along the way of maybe being on stage somehow. And I've gotten that opportunity and it's been amazing. And also just that depth that I love, I get to do with people as I coach them. So look back in your story, think about the things that have brought you joy throughout the years. Think about the situations where you just felt like you were on fire and alive. And then dig into like, hey, what would that look like? Maybe it's about typing in the word I don't know. Maybe you're a firefighter at heart. Maybe you've always just been interested about how um, journalism works. I don't know, but dig into it a little bit, see what's out there. And God's going to continue to lead you into what that next step is for you. As always, you can hop on my website and book an appointment with me and we can chat further. Or you can check out the Flying Free sorry, the Freedom Flow Academy and check out the different courses I've developed under stewardship. There's a create schedule that makes you smile. There is play more, work less, and there is start living your dream. And so those are opportunities for you. Again, if you are like, wait a minute, I want to write a book. I feel like that's something I'm supposed to do, and or I want to do something that Andrea's doing. That's cool. Talk to me, message me. I can send you my link to Author Academy Elite. Even it's an amazing program. And yeah, just start digging into that dream. Don't be afraid. Take one. That's my challenge for us all. Take one step towards that next dream that's on your heart and on your mind. And if you don't have a step to take because you're not sure what that dream is, then say, okay, God, in this next week, would you just show me, help me hear how people perceive me, and help me see what those gifts are you have for me, and help me feel again that nudge you put in my heart towards what is my dream that you have for me to pursue. Cool. Love you guys. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.